Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone gathered in our space this morning. And to those joining online, my name is Reverend Mark Anthony Chase, and I have the honor of being one of the pastors here on staff at All Saints. And as we gather into this space, I'd like to begin us in a grounding prayer where we can breathe and come into ourselves and come into this space. As we continue to celebrate Black History Month, as we continue to celebrate the contributions that Black people have made to this democracy and to this world and to this country and to this space. So that's what we're doing this Sunday. And we're going to do that and begin that on this particular Sunday by coming into our bodies and coming into our breath. We're going to locate ourselves, because if you're anything like me, you're a little disoriented coming into this space, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're coming into this space encouraged and full of energy and buzzing. But wherever you find yourself, there's space for you here. As you're watching online, get into a comfortable seat, or if you like, you can kind of stand and just allow your shoulders to drop towards the ground, right? Just allow those shoulders to drop. Our shoulders carry so much of not only our physical weight, but the spiritual and emotional weight of our lives. So just allow those shoulders to drop towards the ground. I like to say, allow your shoulders to surrender to gravity. Quite often, any anxiety or any energy that we're holding, our shoulders bunch up towards the ears. So just allow them to surrender to gravity. And as you're doing that, just find a rhythm of breathing that works for you. You don't have to change or manipulate your breath in this moment, but our invitation is to notice the breath. As you inhale, you might notice that the breath is cool as it comes into the nostrils. And as you exhale, you might notice that a little miracle happens. And that little miracle is that the breath is warmed up so that your bloodstream can use the oxygen from the air to then pump that through the rest of your body. That's a little miracle happening every second. So you might just notice that. The cool and the warmth on the exhale. And in this moment, I'm just going to give us about 30 seconds before I pray to just have one task. I know there's so much happening with fascism at our doorstep or even beyond our doorstep. The globe continues to warm, continues to boil. Many of us still recovering from the devastation of the Eaton fire. Beloved, we are holding so much, let alone our own personal grief that we're carrying. We're holding a lot. But in this moment, for 30 seconds, just experience the peace of having one thing to do, and that is to breathe. Holy God, great creator, ground of our being, we thank you for sustaining us in whatever season we find ourselves, especially in this season. Thank you for the miracle that is our breath. Thank you for the miracle that is community. For especially in these times, as so much seeks to polarize and divide us, thank you for the miracle it is when we gather together to break bread to break donuts and to sit together and remind ourselves that we are human and that we belong to one another. God, thank you for this month, Black History Month. In some ways, it's so absurd. Black history is 24/7, 365. But God, we thank you for this month to intentionally center and remember that Black is beautiful, that Black is sacred, that Black is anointed, that Black is created in the image of God, regardless of what the powers that be may try to tell us. God, we thank you for this moment to pause and remember that Black is a reflection of God. Thank you for this space. Be with us. In the name of God, creating, redeeming, and sustaining. Amen. Amen. All right, beloved. Well, anybody feel better after that? Okay, all right, just shake, 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 too, to get it all the way loose. Online, you can do that as well. Well, in this time, it's my joy and honor to introduce my colleague, Reverend Susan Russell, who's going to be telling us a little bit about what we're going to be engaging with and whose legacy we're going to be engaging with this morning. So welcome, Susan, as she comes.
Well, good morning, church. I am Susan Russell. I'm one of the priests on staff here. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a lifelong Episcopalian who is, I think, deeply aware of all the ways and places our church can still continue to grow into its full stature in its life in Christ as a place where everyone truly belongs and is truly beloved, but also a church with a deep, strong legacy of opinion leading, of ceiling breaking, and of prophetic leaders throughout our history. And we're going to learn about one of them today. Byron Rushing. Raise your hand if you've heard of him. Couple, okay. So I consider Byron not an unsung hero, but an undersung hero in the Episcopal Church. You're going to learn more about him in just a moment. We're going to watch about a 15-minute video telling his story, and then do a little follow-up and Q&A about what you heard and how it resonated with you. I'm just going to give you my 30-second, I think. I've known Byron since the late 80s when I first got involved in national church work. We were part of something called the Consultation, which was an intentional bringing together of intersectional groups across difference on common goals of justice, and to be included everyone from the Union of Black Episcopalians, our API friends, Episcopal Peace Fellowship, Integrity, our Gay and Lesbian Caucus. And remembering this was 80s and early 90s, to be perfectly honest, we didn't always work and play as well as we would have liked to together. And Byron was one of the, I would say, paradigmatic early leaders who helped pull us together, who helped weave the tapestry of connection so we were able to break down the walls that divided us and work together on our common goals of being a church where whoever you are and wherever you find yourself, you truly belong. We are not there yet. It is still an aspirational goal, but we are way further down the path than we would have been if we had not had the leadership of Byron Rushing. So now, Chase did all the fancy prayers. I'm going to do the quick one. Just pray that the tech piece works, because I don't have a plan B.
Let us turn with courage and face with courage these new demands. We can do this.
If you like women, you like women. If you like guys, you like guys. We're all people. It shouldn't matter what you marry.
Pride Day is not only about being gay or lesbian, it's about society and our rights to live our life the way we want to live our life.
There has been a considerable amount of debate about whether this is a civil rights issue or not. For me, it is a civil rights issue. It is a civil rights issue because I understand the institution of marriage as being a civil institution as well as a religious institution. And it is that civil institution that creates the benefits that we have written into our law. That's the civil marriage that we define. And that is the question that is before us. No religious institution creates a set of benefits for all married people. My name is Byron Rushing, and I'm a member of the Massachusetts State Legislature.
When we moved into the house, Byron knocks on the door and introduces himself and lets us know that he's our representative.
When married people get certain benefits, they do not go to their religious institution to collect those benefits. They collect those benefits from us. They collect those benefits from government. It's government that protects those benefits.
He really is what a representative should be, a real friend and advocate in the neighborhood.
This is my friend for many years. You know I vote for Byron. I've been voting for you for years.
We don't have the same view of marriage that people had about marriage 100 years ago, and certainly not what they had about marriage 500 years ago. There were states that always allowed interracial marriage in the United States, but most states did not. Most states had some law against interracial marriage. I found myself as a straight civil rights activist in an interesting position because the idea of same-sex marriage made a lot of sense to me almost as soon as I engaged in that discussion. But I was also an elected official, and I had to, in many ways, wait for my gay and lesbian constituents to get to the point where that was something that made sense to them as a movement.
My first partner and I were together 13 years. And I came home from work one day, and he was laying in the driveway. He had been raking leaves, and I didn't know really what was going on. And as I approached him, I could see he wasn't moving. So I called my neighbors. They came out to help me. And when the police arrived and EMTs, they arrested me. And they thought it was a breaking and entering case or assault and battery. And my neighbors spoke up for me, and we established with the authorities that this was my partner that was on the ground. So then we moved from there to the hospital, and I wasn't given any information about my first partner's condition. And eventually we went to the authorities, and the hospital called his parents in Vermont, and his 75-year-old mother gave them permission to talk with me. And they told me at that point that he was dead on arrival. He had had a massive heart attack. In that moment, I realized that I did not have the same rights as my neighbors, my other family members. So it sort of sparked, at least in me, if I'm ever in another relationship, I want to make sure that I have the laws that will protect me.
Marriage is a civil institution, and in a democracy, all civil institutions must be open to all who qualify.
For a long time, the LGBT community sort of borrowed moral authority from communities of color and the civil rights struggle that people of color have had. And having an African American of his stature and with his history there made a big difference.
Most people know Byron just as an elected official or a politician, but he's an extraordinary politician as well as a historian. He really knows the history of Boston and Roxbury. And so when he talks about his policy initiatives or the policy works, including marriage equality, he can reach down and bring all that forward.
I graduated from high school in 1960. And so I already was conscious of the beginnings of the civil rights movement in the South. And so when I came to college, I got connected to civil rights groups that were in Boston and in Roxbury at the time. While I was in my junior year, the civil rights movement was just blooming. Many people were leaving college to go work in the civil rights movement, and I decided to do that also. So I left and went to work for CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality. By the time that year was over, that first year was over, I was a community organizer.
And when I was involved in the civil rights movement, one of the things that I realized was that we were doing a number of things and thinking that we were doing them first. And if we had started with those past masters of Black history, we probably wouldn't have had so many failures ourselves.
Byron was involved with many of the early civil rights issues, including busing in Boston. And if you fast forward to the marriage movement, he became one of the most vocal legislators pushing to not overturn the marriage law.
Well, Byron Rushing, is like our Martin Luther King when it comes to social justice issues in the queer community in general, but certainly for the African American community.
If you would prefer to be in this nation, then let me tell you what the rule is. This is the rule in this nation. If you are a little religious group or a huge, big religious group, you are free to practice. But you gotta follow this rule, that the other religious group down the street, big or small, has the same freedom to practice. That's the rule. And that means there are religious organizations, they are not huge, but they are here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that believe that it is fine for same-sex couples to be married and in a sacred union blessed by God and go up and take communion and eat the body and blood of Jesus.
Well, initially we were going to get married in City Hall. We kind of outgrew it. And so where should we go? I called Reverend Leslie and I said, "This is Mary Simmons." She says, "Oh yes, I've heard of you." And I said, "Okay, it's going so far so good." I said, "And you also know I'm the openly gay music." She says, "Oh yes, I know that." I said, "Okay." And so I said, my longtime partner and I would like to get married, and we'd love to have it at your church, and what do you think of that?" I didn't hear anything like a thump on the other end, so because she hasn't passed out. So, and she says, "We were really thinking about that." And I was actually stunned. And I remember calling Maddie again. I said, "We're going to get married in the African American church. This is huge."
Were it not for this courageous, straight African American sister who was very passionate about this issue, that everybody have the right to marry whomever she or he wants to, that marriage would have never taken place at St. Bartholomew Episcopal Church. This is a Black church. She could have been defrocked. She could lose her position at St. Bartholomew. Reverend Leslie worked some miracles.
I decided to send a letter to all of the parishioners on the mailing list. Some of you believe homosexuality is sinful and that homosexual couples are living in a state of unrepentant sin. But are we in the habit of denying the other sacraments to gay people? No one anywhere is protesting or threatening to leave the church if we do not stop baptizing and giving communion to people who are gay, even though baptism and the Eucharist are the primary sacraments instituted by Jesus Christ in the Gospels. If we can offer these two primary sacraments of our church to gay people freely, where is the argument for denying them the other sacramental actions?
We were being married because we loved each other, but it was also saying that we have a right to be married. That was very important. It was important for my children to see. It was important to my children to know that their parents, if you will, have a legitimate relationship like their peers.
I am a member of a Black church in Dorchester, and it is a Pentecostal church, and it's a fundamental church. So I didn't bother about even asking the minister to marry us. Instead, we were married at a Unitarian church. We celebrate around Easter our 40th anniversary, and then in May, we celebrate the anniversary of when we were legally married.
Many black churches stood up and said they didn't want the civil definition to change. And the argument was that civil rights in this country was defined for black people. To call anything else a civil rights struggle was somehow to disparage the struggle of black people for civil rights. And that was an argument that had to be challenged. There are a number of ministers in African American churches in this state that also have forgotten their relationship to the political secular society. They have forgotten their relationship to the development of the civil rights struggle in this nation. They are telling us that black people, once they have gotten those civil rights, don't have to share. They don't have to share what they learned. They don't have to share what they acquired in those civil rights. I say to any of the leaders of African American churches in this state who have taken that position, shame on you. Shame on you.
He really didn't want to see the black community torn apart. I know it hurt him to see us fighting. Here you have black ministers and the larger black community, and then you have the LGBT community. You could see he was very pained by this. A lot of his work is because he loves the African American community. That's just it.
How you doing? I'm all right. How are you? I'm fine. Well, it certainly helped to have a governor who supported equal marriage.
Well, for me, it's just a question of fairness and human dignity. It's about people coming before their government as equals.
It was 10 times more important to have him as a black governor being in support of equal marriage. When he won his election, that opposition in the black church leadership, for all intents and purposes, vanished. It went underground because from their point of view, there was something more important than same-sex marriage, and that was having a black governor.
Well, you know, at the time we were working through all those issues, I didn't know that Catherine was a lesbian, our daughter. Catherine was a lesbian. I didn't find that out until months and months afterwards. And it just reaffirmed that we'd done the right thing, because one day I want her to be able to marry the person she loves.
I have a partner for going on 40 years. Yeah, I used to say, well, I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to get married until same-sex couples can get married. That was a great line. I can't use that very much anymore. That is, of course, what we want to have happen, is that you decide. You decide.
Wow, can we just clap it up for the life and legacy of Byron Rushing? Wow. And as we reflect and come into, can we just hit the lights as well? Thank you, my brother. One of the things that this short film stirred within me as I reflected and thought about it was the power, even as we look at social media and as we are more connected with things that are happening across the world than ever, the power of politics remains a local endeavor. It remains a local endeavor, right? And so as I look at the life and legacy of Byron Rushing and what he meant to Boston, what he meant to his neighborhood, what he meant to the people on his street, it reminds me of that power. And even as we reflect and remember the civil rights movement, right? That was a national and a global movement, but it started local. Right? When you think about the Montgomery bus boycott, that was a local effort that gained national appeal and national notoriety as it went on. It went on for 385 days as people organized and traded shoes. As people refused to take the bus, they would walk and their shoes would get worn out. So there were people who would say, you know what, I'm a cobbler. I can stitch your shoes back together. Let's trade shoes. There were folks who said, you know what, let's organize the taxi system. Let's become one another's taxis. Let's do childcare, right? So the neighborhood was the collective power of the civil rights struggle, and then it got national appeal, right? And even as we look at our siblings in Minneapolis, right? What's happening in Minneapolis right now is you're seeing the power of the neighborhood. You're seeing the power of people locally organizing themselves. And so that's one of the things that I reflected on and took out of this short documentary. And so as we open it up for reflections, we just want to hear, what is something that is happening locally that's giving you hope? What is something happening here in the greater Los Angeles area, here in Pasadena, or on your street that is giving you hope? What's something that you've seen that has sparked that in you? For me, it was just a couple of weeks ago here on All Saints Church campus as we partnered with a local group called the Community Self-Defense Coalition and Auto Defensa here in Pasadena. We had set up a training for folks to learn how to love their neighbor and keep their neighbor safe. We expected about 100, 150 people. We'd set up in the Learning Center. There was food. And then at around, 11:30, we looked and we're like, we don't think this room is going to work. Because it wasn't 150 people that showed up. It was almost 800 people that showed up. A line around the block. You would have thought we were giving away some concert tickets to see Beyonce or Taylor Swift. But no, we were giving away justice and love, and people lined the block for that. And so that gave me hope, and that happened right here in our neighborhood, and some of you were there in that space. So, yeah, so feel free to open it up for anything related to the video, but just what is giving you hope on a local or neighborhood level. We'll start here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for showing that. I was not aware of this guy. What gave me hope was on Colorado, I think it was 10 days ago, the I suppose you call it a protest, the march there, and the point being that the perfect is the enemy of the good, and you have to do something. And these people were surely demonstrating something. The other thing is, I'm from Sweden, I'm a Swedish citizen. What's the difference in the United States between a civil right and a legal right? And I mean, the people who are being deported, they have a legal right as well. So civil right and legal right. And I raise this also because some of the black churches were saying it some way undermines the civil rights idea to have this being bundled in with that, which is a curious thing for me.
Oh, that was a lot. So I'm going to start by saying, and I'll just open it up to any other legal experts, and I see Sister Clara raising her hand right here to kind of answer that question. It's a really good question, and I think in the context too of what we're seeing specifically with ICE, right? It's a organization that has not always existed in perpetuity in American history. It's about 25 years old, and that is one of the things that has happened is with the with the birth of ICE, so to speak, we've seen immigration become a which was a civil issue, being enforced with the gravest of legal consequences. So I'm going to pass it to Sister Claire, who had a comment on that.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. It's almost like you were going right and then you made a sharp left turn. But the civil rights, they became laws. They were enacted, the 13th, the 14th Amendment, and those are laws. When you start talking about the black church, and this goes back to the film with the councilman, one of the things with the black church is that, remember, we were colonized. African Americans were enslaved and colonized. So a lot of those beliefs that were held by the master, the dominant class, have been absorbed into the black church. So just like you could not marry any white person, everything you wanted to be just like the dominant church. The thing of it is that that's been slow to change. And so you have these secret couples that, because it hasn't embraced it. And so the prayer is, and black churches are in support of immigration rights. And just like all the portions of Latinos and blacks voted for Trump, and now they're so, but it's all from a standpoint of having been colonized. You want to do what they're doing. And so the fact that All Saints leads the way, it shows the hope that maybe they can come out. I see people all the time that come here because they can be free here, but they still have allegiance to the black church or whatever community church they were part of.
Oh, thank you. That's so good. And I would just add to that, too. And it's subtle, but it's not so subtle. There are times where you can see where anti-blackness kind of manifests itself, where people will become critical of the black community for the same vices that exist in wider society, right? And it's like, wait, black people didn't invent patriarchy and homophobia? What is this, right? And so we have to be very careful as we discuss and as we really examine these things to make sure that the subtle ways in which anti-blackness can manifest itself aren't things that we're practicing subconsciously, right? But thank you, Sister Claire, for that comment. All right, Norita.
Kind of building on what Clara said, I want to go back to Byron Rushing in this film because he is a civil rights activist. And just to kind of ground ourselves in history, remember the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act were passed like 64, 65. Prior to those pieces, those laws, immigration in this country was severely restricted. Those laws opened up immigration in this country. And I think, and it was really good to see him and hear him speak. And building on what Clara said, I think it's important. I think I'll speak for myself. I will say as a black person who grew up during those times, I really see what's going on with immigration. It's like the next wave of civil rights in this country. And I think if we can embrace that, because we're really talking about including everyone, and it's just kind of, and that's in part what the civil rights movement did. It was to humanize black people, and now we're talking about really humanizing many more. So if we can kind of keep that frame.
Yes, Cindy.
I want to pull the conversation back to your question, where do I see hope? First, I want to let everyone know, especially thank you, not just for showing the film, but making a link so that I walked out of the room only because I previewed it a few days before, and there are other things I had to do. But hope is, as we say, 1,000 points of light. And as we work together as a community here at All Saints, our little light, I think, multiplies exponentially. And you talked about the CCC, the partnerships we have with in the 626 area code. We just did yesterday, right, another in-service regarding with the immigration rights, Jonathan Fung here and his colleagues. So it's immigration, it's our civil rights, it's our legal rights, it's everything, the whole package. And some of us have demonstrated on Colorado, some of us have gone downtown, and being gray here, we bring down the intensity. So my nephew, who is a civilian employee with the Seattle Police Department, says, "Auntie, go, because you will bring down the intention," because they really don't want to billy club a 73-year-old little old lady.
I actually just want to say that I think the biggest hope I saw recently was all the high schoolers that did the demonstration. Most people in this room have been here a while, not everybody, but we need those young people. It won't work if it's just the older people. And the demonstrations have changed. Initially, it was the older group, and it's getting younger. And for me, that is hope.
And that hope is also historical, right? Again, going back to the civil rights, a lot of these leaders were 19, 20-year-olds, right? And as we remember them in history and as they're canonized in the pantheon of human rights activists, we think they were older, but these were a lot of high school and college students leading the way. I saw a hand up here somewhere. Okay.
I wanted to say first in response to what is this, a legal right versus a civil right. And I think the history of civil rights is the idea of a higher law, that there is a right, that all men are created equal, and that is God-given, right? So that is the idea, and it has been fought for centuries, right? But what I found hopeful now is in fighting the excess violence of ICE, is that our city prosecutor declined to prosecute someone who'd been arrested by our police for witnessing ICE. So I think that the hope is that what civil power we have, such as our police, can protect us, and I think that's happening. I think the activity in Seattle, where the police monitor ICE, is a model. And so my hope is that what civil power we have comes to bear and lasts. Thank you.
I think that's really important, and I'm going to hand it off to Susan. What the gentleman just mentioned about Jose Madera, he was arrested a few weeks ago as he was practicing well within his rights to monitor ICE. ICE instructed PPD to arrest him. PPD arrested him, and the charges were dropped several weeks later. They're declining to press charges. Now, the reason that is so hopeful and that matters, you might think, oh, they're not going to press charges? How is that hopeful, right? But it's because we raised a fuss about that, right? There's about 15, 20 of us gathered outside of PPD, and then we were just making noise, and then they released them. And then that crowd of 15 to 20 people grew into about 100, and then we marched to City Hall and said, we want to meet with the mayor now. And then we met with the mayor. And then that grew, and then now the charges have been dropped. And that's hopeful because it shows that in spite of what the narrative of fascism wants to tell us right now, our actions still matter. Our collective group actions still matter, and they're still moving the needle all over the place. So, yeah.
So as we start to draw to a close, in order to let people go to church, I just wanted to offer a couple quick closing comments. For me, this is like looking at my family album, seeing Byron again in action, reminding myself of his prophetic work. And to go back to something Sister Clara talked about, one of the things we have to realize is it is about that overarching desire to keep anyone who is not part of the patriarchy in their place. And one of the ways that happens is by leveraging power to polarize and divide those who stand to gain by changes. So whether you're black, whether you're brown, whether you're queer, whether you're non-binary, whether you're differently abled, whatever we are who isn't in power, when we come together, there are more of them than there are more of us than there are of them. And when we can remember that and refuse, again, the people united will never be defeated. That's where we are right now, trying to rebuild those coalitions. Talking about the youth, one of my rules of life is not to argue with other people's friends in comments in Facebook. I recommend it to you as a rule of life. Nothing good comes of it. But every once in a while, you know, you read something and you're like, I just can't help it. So saw someone the other day commenting on the youth marching out in Santa Barbara. Well, I went to high school and college in Santa Barbara. I am old enough that we were in the streets protesting the Vietnam War and get oil out. GOO, we had our signs to get the oil out of the channel. And the comment was, these kids don't even know what they're doing. They just want a day out of school. And I said, you know, I'm old enough to know that people like you were the ones who were telling me when I was 17 that we didn't know what we were doing. Believe me, we knew what we were doing then, and change happened because of what we did, and those kids know what they're doing now. So with that, again, it's a delight to be here. Black History Month does not end at the end of February. Any more than Women's History Month will end at the end of March, or LGBTQ Pride will end at the end of June, at least at All Saints Church. Because what we're trying to build is a beloved community of belonging for absolutely everyone. We want to move beyond the idea of inclusion and talk about belonging. Because when we use the word inclusion, not a bad thing, but when we use the word inclusion, it infers that someone has permission or power to include others, as opposed to becoming a place where absolutely everyone is welcome with all of who they are. So thank you for being here. Thank you for helping us continue on our journey this Black History Month. I do commend our website to you. We're building resources there, other stories. This is the only 9 o'clock hour we had dedicated to this, but you can go on the website and find out about other people. Some of you know Pauli Murray's story. Many of you probably don't know Ed Rodman's story. We've also got a whole variety, Zelda Kennedy's story. Check it out, share it with your friends, and be part of celebrating Black History Month. And one last quick commercial. We're also going to be celebrating something called Lent coming up very soon. Next week at 9 o'clock, we're going to do everything you ever wanted to know about Lent. So I'm going to lead that, but it's going to be what I hope you'll come back with your questions and your curiosities about Lent as we have a conversation. I can't guarantee to be as clever about it as Tim is when he does his Q&A, but bring questions you have, and we'll begin to launch Lent next week, February 15th, and Ash Wednesday looms on February 18th. So thank you all for being here. Take care and God bless. Bye to the interweb folks, and the struggle continues. Let's continue to struggle together. Thank you all.